Kia ora, ko Chae tōku ingoa, no rongo mai wahine a hau. So my role here involves translating a framework that He Piki Ngā designed and developed, and my role involves translating that framework into a working intervention for families here that are a part of Te Kohau and living here in Hamilton. We had He Piki Ngā which is a research team, and Te Kohau Health, some of their managers, some of their whānau water navigators who work with families here in Hamilton, and some families and community members that came together to really look at what types of interventions or what would be really useful. And the problem that really came up was around pre-diabetes. Meant that when we tend to work more with the people with more crucial need, more immediate need than the people that might have a need in the near future, which is what pre-diabetes is. It's not saying you have diabetes, it's saying you're at a very high risk, you're just about there, you probably should do something about that. So that was how this kind of, this program, this intervention in the first instance was about providing something, a service, a program, or something for those families that were coming through being diagnosed with pre-diabetes and had a need. There were really a lot of considerations in terms of how this program could be formulated so that A, it didn't duplicate services that existed and actually addressed a gap, and also B, met the needs of the families on the whānau that we were trying to help. Because what we also knew was that, based on evidence that came from the American Diabetes Prevention Program, is that we needed to provide a structured program that was at least 8 to 12 weeks. So that was the bones of what we had to do. So the woman I talked to, she had a son in his 30s who's very overweight, very unhealthy. She suspected that he was diabetic, if not all pre-diabetic, although it hadn't been diagnosed. But he worked as a truck driver, so he had a very sedentary job. He had no way to get there in the middle of the day. He had a partner who was also working, so she had no way of getting there in the day, and they had 6 children. Yeah, so they had 6 children. They had a very limited budget and very limited time to be able to do good things for their family, to change the certain behavioural things. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. This is a very different set of people. Is this the kind of people that are missing out on services when we're looking? Because these aren't the type, if you've got 6 kids, you can't go to the gym at night, you can't focus on yourself because you don't have that luxury, and you are not free to go to things during the daytime. So when we looked around, we found that, there were more and more family groups that were kind of in this whole predicament where they couldn't attend programs, after hours programs, because they wouldn't take their children to them. They had a lot of children, they had very limited budgets, and they just weren't free in the daytime to be able to attend those types of programs because they work. So that became our primary focus. So we were like, okay, so the programs that exist, cool, you're covering that, but you're covering that, but what we also know from the He Piki Ngā framework is that from a systems approach, you have to have multiple solutions to try and fix a problem. Let's not make it about an individual's journey to health, we'll make it about the whole family's journey to health, and we'll make it as flexible and as welcoming and as applicable for families as we possibly can. So that became, the core of our design theory, or how we went about designing this type of intervention. So from there, we knew we had the bits and pieces, so we tried to think from the perspective of a family, because I'm a mum too, so it's putting myself into the shoes of those families and thinking, well, what's going to make it appealing for me to drag my children out at night time? And it has to be more, it's not just a babysitting service for my kids. If I'm bringing them along, I want to make sure that they're learning something too. So in the first instance, the first real draft that I started taking out to families, and they were just casual conversations, it wasn't anything official, it was going out to families, people who looked like this, who were the kind of people I wanted to talk to, and running this draft program past them, and they're like, how would you feel about this? Would this work for you? Is this something you want to do? And the responses we're getting was like, yeah, oh, but You're like, 2 hours is too long. Change that. I don't want to take the kids out for 2 hours in the night, knowing that we were starting in winter and it got dark really quick. And they were like, look, that's not going to happen. And they were like, okay. And then originally the day that we had was not going to work for a lot of people because of sports, people taking the kids to sports. So we had to pick Monday, which is generally a really quiet day for most families. And things like food, making sure that we could take some of the work out for parents. So we I drafted in there that we would make dinner for everyone, because then you don't have to worry about taking your kids home and cooking for them because they're already fed. It's basically showers and bed if you're getting them home early. And then as takeaway dinners that were already prepackaged, and we just discussed it and handed out recipes that they get at the end of the session, because then we don't have to worry about cleaning up and holding people back longer than they actually want to be, because the worst thing we could do is make it too much work, because then no one comes back. But one of the benefits we were thinking of in the beginning is that there was some research that came out of the States that said a family intervention is a good way to educate families about child obesity, because you're not focusing things on the children. You're focusing on the whole family learning, which is a lot less threatening or intimidating for a child who is obese. So that was another plus reason for us to be family focused, because hey, it's like, if we can talk to the whole family is doing this, then it's not about any one person, it's about doing it together as a whānau for everyone's health. And also the intergenerational aspect, because we were looking at, if you have your grandparents or your parents who are obese and are having potential health issues, then it's likely that way of thinking and that way of living filters down to your children, because who's doing the grocery shopping and who's setting the example. So when we were modelling it that way, that's the reason that we thought, yes, the best way for us to be looking at it is from a whole family and not be pointing a spotlight at any one person. So we had after the first program that we did with the community, we had a second program with Te Kohau staff as well, and we have about 10 staff at Te Kohau who are working with our exercise physiologists, so that we're really walking and talking it at the same time in so we're doing it as well as teaching it to our clients, and it's happening more and more. So every week we get more and more interest in how we work and what we're doing and our approaches, purely from people who are doing it, seeing results in them and seeing results in their families. We've got the 3 communities that we're working at in the moment, being Te Kohau Health, Raglan and Melville. Melville was really our primary focus community. Yeah, we feel like we've got a really good working model now in the program that we're running out in Melville, but for us now it's about taking it out to the wider community. But in doing that, we've realised that Melville isn't necessarily as connected as other communities are in Hamilton. So we're having to do, one of the cool things we found about this program is we created a community through it, because we're bringing together groups who didn't know each other. We'll be running a thing called a big community Chae, a free and open dinner for all of the community to come along and just connect with one another. Because we're thinking, before you can build or ask questions or trying to build off the community, it's creating that space and opportunity for the community to connect with themselves. So in this, we're just asking people to come along, have dinner, and meet some of your neighbours, talk to one another, get familiar, and just an opportunity that we wouldn't otherwise have out there. And the reasons for that is that we know that I think in the Waikato Alliance, about 30% of people that live on their own. So we're really wanting to bring people out of isolation or perhaps feeling lonely and connecting them with their neighbours. And also the flip side of that is, being a reasonably high deprivation area, we know that we've got a lot of families there with children who otherwise couldn't afford to go out and have a nice dinner or take their kids out for things like that. So we wanted to create a really nice atmosphere of a 2-course dinner that's really long bench tables where families can come along and just sit and talk with one another and feel like they're out and connecting. And as part of that, talking about the things that are happening at Te Kohau. The other side of things that we'll be doing in that is bringing in external groups, so council, possibly philanthropic funders, definitely all of Te Koho, the university, the district health boards and that, to look at whether who could partner with us and who would be interested in championing with us in the next iteration of this program. So ideally, the third rollout that we'll have for this program will be a co-partnered, and we'll use some of the insights that we'll be gaining from our big community dinner to improve even more, and then partner out with a view to making this sustainable in the community with partners. Cool. I think one of the biggest challenges in developing programs or interventions in the community is assuming that we have to know everything before we implement or before we go to. And the reality of things is that you will never ever have a perfect model. In order for it to be applicable, it has to continually change and adapt to what the community wants, or whoever you're running it for wants. If you design a program that is not tailored to what they want, does not meet what they need, and is nothing that they like, they won't come. You won't get retention, and you won't get results. If you don't understand or try to put yourself in their shoes and how they live their lives, you'll never be able to design a program that really fits for them and works for them and makes those long-term changes. And essentially, ideally, that's what we want. We want long-term changes, not quick fixes. And to do that, we really have to understand. And that means constantly asking everyone whether they feel like you're getting things right. And the other side of that is that when you ask them, then they feel involved and they feel engaged, and it feels a lot less like doing to and doing with. It feels more like doing with, like you're partnering with them, coaching them, facilitating with them for them, not doing to them, which, nobody likes that. So, and then you get that ownership and engagement, and they will keep coming because then they feel that responsibility that it's about them and it's for them and they're a part of it. So yeah, and that's definitely been the case for us, because we managed to achieve in our first cohort 100% retention over an 8-week program in the middle of winter with people with kids, which is, you never get that. No one wants to keep going to something. Even through sickness and illness, people just keep coming and retaining it because they had that sense of ownership, that real connection, that really, it was something that they wanted and it worked for them. I think when you're picking up the framework and looking at it for the first time and thinking, how can I apply this? It's really about understanding that it's a guideline. It's a really good piece to kind of understand how you're going or how you might start planning, but understand first and foremost that it's fluid. Just because you're at one point here, people change, things change, and you can continually monitor how you're going. And it's kind of nice in that way, because you're often working with a lot of different audiences, a lot of different groups, and it can feel a bit overwhelming or confusing. And that framework is a good way to kind of step back, evaluate at any point in time and say, well, how's this actually going? And go, yeah, okay, this is working, but maybe I could fix something in here. So for that, it's amazing. But certainly I would reiterate that it's not about having everything 100% before you go out. It's bringing in other people, involving them, engaging them, and talking about how they want this program to work, how they see it working, and how it will work for them. Because I think that's where you can really start to get a lot more ownership and a better chance of sustainability past what your project terms and those types of things. Yeah, so I think in much as in life, the most important thing are people. Working with people, engaging with people, constantly asking, and just being flexible enough to change things when it doesn't work how you thought it would.